Next one, we got Schaub and Callan react to Ronda Rousey's book. Now, Ronda Rousey has been doing her podcast run and promoting her book. In one of the parts of her book, she talks about Schaub and how he was like manipulative and blah blah blah. So Chin, Schaub's producer, brings this up and wants to know, his opinion about it. And let's just watch the clip here. See what Brendan says about Ronda Rousey, his ex.
Popped up today all over the place on YouTube, Instagram, everywhere.
What do we got?
So Ronda Rousey, apparently you're in her new memoir.
Again?
Yeah, I'll just show you this article
you in the first
here.
Again? No.
I don't know.
Of playing mind games.
That's the title. Yeah, I didn't read the book, so I don't know. But it says, yeah,
The book
Ronda Rousey.
just came out, or this is old?
No, this is new.
This is a new one.
It literally started popping up today.
How the
I
hell
saw a
am I in a
bunch.
new
So I don't know if you
She
want to
looks
talk
great
about
in
this
that
or not,
picture.
but
She doesn't look like she's aged a minute.
No.
Look at that.
She looks great.
Her mom
God.
has great genetics too, though.
Jeez, she looks fantastic.
anyway.
There's a couple of quotes.
My ex thrived on playing fucked up mind games with me when I had a fight coming up, and instead we hide that we were dating so he wouldn't be labeled Ronda Rousey's boyfriend.
Hold on.
I think Brendan was kind of insecure about Ronda Rousey because how successful she was, and that kind of embarrassed Brendan's ego a bit, right? Because he was in the UFC and his run wasn't as great as Ronda's run.
By mind games, I mean maybe going MIA, like just not.
As Travis headed into the matchup, I pretended it wasn't Person's voice saying, Ronda says, fuck you. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Ronda and Steve-O were talking about this, and Steve-O said, what did Travis tell Brendan after he TKO'd him?
I have a question. You described watching Travis knock out your unnamed ex-boyfriend, and you said that as you watched the fight, you felt like you could hear him say, like, to this partially conscious, dude, like, Ronda says, fuck you. And I'm dying to know, did he actually say that?
No. No, he didn't. I don't know if he wants me to say what he said. So
Okay.
you can ask him that
All
one
right.
day, but it was pretty fucking metal.
And I guess that's what Travis said is Ronda says fuck you. So that's, I guess now we kind of solved the mystery there of what did Travis say to Brendan during at the end of their fight.
Ronda!
That never happened.
No?
No.
No, but he did whisper in your ear. I don't know what he said, but I remember too. I will say this about
I'll say.
Oh, he doesn't remember because he was getting hit in the head.
Hey, can I speak on this?
Yes.
Do you mind?
Yeah.
I'll say this: if I wrote this is the difference. If I wrote a book, she would not be in my book. Like that. Like that's not like an event in my life that I would put in a book.
Isn't that the thing that Ronda Rousey was saying, that Brendan didn't want to be seen with her? And he just kind of proved it right there, saying like, if I made a book, she would not be in it.
But again, I'll say this: like, if I write a book, which eventually I'm sure I will, that and this isn't a knock on her. Maybe I don't know what the book's about. Maybe if it's like love interest and her past relationships, then that makes sense. I'm in the book. But like my book, her and Travis wouldn't be a highlight of my life. It's just not. That wouldn't make my book.
Because you're embarrassed of her, bro. You were embarrassed of her success, and that made you feel a certain way, right?
I mean, but she has kids, and it obviously worked out, and like, it's life. Like, we weren't a match. So like, when she says mind games, no, it's not mind games. Like, the mind games came from, in all honesty, her camp. Like, that was the trouble she had, and that's a whole nother issue that she can address. I have nothing to do with that. I didn't train at her camp. I don't know the coach. I did nothing. I have nothing to do with that. Mind games. I guess when she means mind games, that would mean it wasn't a match.
It just wasn't a match.
So yeah. So and you were around during that time, and you knew this. I'm like, dude, I don't know what to do. Love the girl as a friend.
Well,
but when it came to that, I'm like, dude, it's just not. She's not my person. I found my person. She's not my person.
I think there's more context to that than he's trying to lead on to. I think what Ronda said was that what did he say? Let me see if I can pull it up here. So here's a excerpt from Ronda's book. Travis had been training with us for a while when it was announced that his first fight as an official member of our team would be against my ex-boyfriend. My ex thrived on playing fucked up mind games with me when I had a fight coming up and insisted we hid that we were dating so he wouldn't be labeled Ronda Rousey's boyfriend. As Travis headed into the matchup, I pretended it wasn't personal. I tried not to be overly involved or emotional. This isn't my fight. I was hoping he would win, but I was in training camp, so I didn't really think too much about it. This was until on live TV, and I lost my goddamn mind, screaming at the top of my lungs, "Get him, Travis," while punching the arm of the person on my couch next to me. That's what she considers mind games. I mean, look, Ronda, throughout her conversations in podcasts and stuff, she had this thing. She had Holly Holm saying that she was lucky or whatever, and she had a whole bunch of concussions because she fell down the stairs, and she blamed that because of how she lost and blah blah blah, and how she's still the greatest woman fighter alive and blah blah blah.
Any of the podcasts she was on or seen clips from them, I'm sure she hasn't changed much, and she still hasn't gotten over her loss to Holly Holm. Like, she still thinks she's the better fighter, and she thinks she's the greatest fighter of all time, actually, and she just has a ton of excuses for that fight and sounds so bitter about it 9 years later. It's crazy all that time has passed and still she hasn't gotten over it. You'd think at this point she would just be happy with her career and how things played out. Obviously it didn't end how she wanted it to, but she still had a really impressive career. I don't think anybody's trying to debate that. I mean, at one point she might have been the most popular fighter on the planet, and she obviously had a huge impact on the UFC and MMA, but still she just shows no humility, and she refuses to admit that there were actually better fighters than her. Like she says, when she decided to leave the UFC, she was still so much better than all the competition. And then she comes up with all these excuses for the Holly Holm fight, like her mouthpiece was messed up, and apparently she fell down a flight of stairs and got a concussion 2 weeks before the fight. She says all that during this podcast, but then also, I'll play this later on, when she was on Steve-O's podcast more recently, she also added that she tore her ACL 2 weeks before the fight, which that I don't believe for a second. Like, if she was injured that badly, I don't know why she'd fight. And of course now she's saying this. I feel like if it were true, she would have brought this up right after the fight, because obviously that would have been a good excuse, but I don't think she really started mentioning this until recently.
It was to the point where the next fight, the first time I got touched, I was out on my feet. And it's so hard because I'd never been faster, never been stronger, never had a better grasp of the game. I'd never been so much better than everybody else. Mm-hmm. But your brain doesn't callous. It doesn't heal back stronger after a break. It's just an inevitable decline. And I just couldn't keep fighting at a level anymore. I'd taken punishment until I couldn't take it anymore. And then when I got to the point that I couldn't take it anymore, then I was like vilified as like, oh, she was all hype and she was just lucky, and she, and people making all these judgments about me in a fight where I was literally, my first loss, I was not, like, my mouth guard was bad. I literally came into that fight concussed from slipping down some stairs already after all of these years of, concussions. And then I had absolutely terrible weight cut, which, that means you have less fluid in your brain to protect it. And I was out on my feet for the entire fight. I was just trying to make it look like I wasn't hurt, but I wasn't there cognitively. I couldn't think as fast. I couldn't judge distance. And just from that one fight, everybody felt like, oh, she's a fraud. And mm-hmm. I know that, like, I'm the greatest fighter that has ever lived. But when it got to a point where I'd just taken so much neurological damage that I couldn't take it anymore.
And I'm sure she's had a lot of concussions, and I don't mind her talking about that, But using that as an excuse as to why she lost against Holly or Amanda, I feel like she's just kind of taken away from what they did. You know, because Ronda's like, yeah, I had so many concussions at that point. I couldn't even think anymore. That's why they beat me. But getting concussions, unfortunately, is something every fighter deals with. You know, Amanda and Holly have had plenty themselves, I'm sure.
I don't like Rousey. I just don't like Rousey. And I don't want to. I just don't like Rousey, and I don't want to take her side because I know she's probably like exaggerating this, and from the sound of Schaub, he's kind of like, yeah, maybe it did do that, but also, you know, we weren't compatible. Maybe, I mean, obviously, we saw that he didn't get with her in the end, and Travis did because he didn't mind somebody being more successful than he was in MMA. And you know how we saw Travis's career end as well, like as you know, the same thing with Schaub, but with with Travis, she wound up with him, and he did not care about not labeling her as, you know, Ronda Rousey's boyfriend, which Brandon seemed like he had a problem with. So yeah, I guess that's I mean, even at Ronda's like episode is not, there's not too much in it, but to be mad about being Brandon's boyfriend and you know, telling people they're not, I guess that kind of like upset Ronda because, like, I mean, a lot of girls will get mad, right? Like, if it's not Brandon, imagine if it was me. I was with a girl and I was with her, right? You know, she was with me right next to me, and I said, oh, I mean, somebody told me like, hey, who's this girl? I'm like, oh, she's just my friend, and she'll be like, just your friend, right? Like, she'll be mad, she'll be upset. So I get that from Ronda. But I think in the end, Ronda kind of dodged a bullet there, and also Brandon did too, because I don't think they were compatible with each other, and everything ended up, I think, relatively well. Right? Everybody went their separate ways.
So it's like, if it's not a match.
I remember you wanting it to be. I remember
we tried. It's just not
wanting it so badly to be your person.
It's just not,
because you loved everything about her, but sometimes in life it's just for you, it's just not a match.
No.
Yeah, he didn't like everything about her. He didn't even want to say that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. How can Brandon say that shit and say with a straight face and shit? That just doesn't make sense.
Wasn't.
It's not there.
And again,
I've had that before.
And it doesn't mean she's a bad person or I'm a bad person. We're just not.
Yeah.
It was never going to work.
I remember that so well.
And I have to have that conversation.
Okay, so there we have it. There, I think, yeah, it's a whole lot of bullocks. It's not that important, I think, and I just don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Because, like, honestly, Ronda Rousey, I don't like her that much. I don't know if she's kind of dramatizing things, and maybe Travis was like, yeah, I told him, babe, that fuck, you know, Ronda says fuck you, Brandon, while he TKO'd him. I don't know. That could be true. That could be true, but I don't know. That'd be funny. That'd be funny though. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys.